Welcome to the 30 and Nerdy Podcast, brought to you by Advertising Expressions, Creative Theater, Akita Express, and Encore Theatrical Company. Visit us online at 30andnerdypodcast.com. Drop us an email at 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Become a patron of the show at patreon.com/30nerdypodcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the show. And now, sit back, relax, and get ready to nerd out with your hosts, Josh Davis and Tyler McDaniel.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes? This is the podcast where everyone knows your name. I can't do it. You know my tag team partner, he's under the weather. And I just cannot do the regular entrance without the PhD here. So, I'm going to try to keep it on theme, though. So, we're just going to try it this way. For the benefit of those with headphones. For the thousands in attendance, and the millions and millions of the Pods fans around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the podcast where everyone knows your name. Cheers to ya. And as always, I am the nerd praising, nerdledge raising, DC craving, nerditude making son of a gun. Woo! The Mac. Man, it just feels weird without someone sitting here saying, all right, take it down a notch, you charismatic son of a gun, you good-looking host with the most hotter than French toast coming at you coast to coast. You nerd. Well, I do miss Josh. Hopefully he will get to feeling better soon, and we will get some structure back to this show. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about wrestling. SummerSlam was yesterday. It was this past Sunday, and we're going to break it down a little bit. I got a chance to sit down with a local legend of wrestling, whether it would be Smoky Mountain Wrestling, WCW, WWF, a local guy who had been in the business for years. And I got to sit down with him and talk the business with him. So I'm excited to share that with you all. And I really want to thank our patrons again and thank every one of you all. Seriously, thank you for all the likes and shares and comments. You are what makes this podcast keep going. Without you all, there is no nerds. There's no us. There's no 30 and Nerdy. So thank you. And I also want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Advertising Expressions, Zach. He goes above and beyond. Every single day he is texting us with some new idea or just helping us with our brand. And thank you, Zach, so much. Encore Theatrical. Everyone over at Encore listening and just being a part of our lives. Big thank you to Robert and the people over there at Creative Theater for talking about us and sharing us and all that fun stuff. And of course, our favorite restaurant in Morristown, Akita Express. We are very thankful for them sponsoring the podcast as well. Like we have told you 1,000 times, 9 times out of 10, we will always choose Akita to refuel the nerd engine, if you will. It is absolutely fantastic. We absolutely love them over there at Akita. 10 out of 10 would definitely recommend. Also, we're going to have another contest coming up very soon. And Akita has graciously donated an amazing prize to our part of the prize that you will be winning in the contest. So be looking out for that soon. So, how about we get into some news? All right. So, a little bit of news for this week. At the TCA Summer Press Tour, Showtime made another casting announcement for its upcoming live-action Halo TV series based on the iconic video game franchise. This newcomer will join actor Pablo Schreiber, who has already been cast as Master Chief. That was announced back in April, of course. The new casting is Natasha McKellen, I think I'm butchering that, who will be playing not only Dr. Halsey from the video game series, who created the Spartan Project, but she will also be voicing the famous AI Cortana. Very excited for that. I loved the Halo franchise, and I cannot wait to see it. I guess this is they had the Peter Jackson on-again, off-again movie. This is the next best thing. So it sounds like they're taking the casting serious, and the series is supposed to appear in the first quarter of 2021. Resident Evil Netflix original show has been confirmed. That's exciting, especially since they finally finished off the movie franchise. Moving forward with that scary video game-based show. Trailer for the Titans Season 2 dropped. In it, we got to see a new look on Raven, that more iconic look. Also, we got to see Ian Glenn's Bruce Wayne. We got to see Superboy, Deathstroke, and even Crypto. This looks fantastic. I cannot wait. I'm going to have to kick Josh's butt into getting on Season 1 quick. Jack Kirby's new Gods comics are getting the big screen live-action movie. The first one is in pre-production, and it has been confirmed that, yes, Darkseid is in it. You cannot have the new Gods storyline without Darkseid, so it has been confirmed. This next little bit of news is massive Crisis on Infinite Earths news from DC Television. Kevin Conroy has joined the cast of Crisis on Infinite Earths as Bruce Wayne. That's right. He is going to be playing the Kingdom Come version, apparently, of Bruce Wayne / Batman. And we're going to get another Batman who has not been casted yet from a different Earth. He has also been joined by Smallville's version of Lex Luthor, will be played by Michael Rosenbaum. Now let's tally this. We've got the Arrowverse characters. Burt Ward is Old Man Robin. Kevin Conroy is Batman from Kingdom Come story arc. A separate Batman from another Earth that's being kept secret. Brandon Routh returning as Superman. Tyler Hoechlin, I think is how you pronounce his name, is appearing as Superman as well. Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor. And there are other legends still in talks with DC TV about appearing in the show. Please, Mark Hamill, please. I'm very excited for this. And now, sadly, we did lose a wrestling legend in the business. Harley Race passed away last week, and that is extremely sad. Because he really paved the way for people like Triple H. And he was an amazing wrestler. And the friend of mine that I got to sit down and talk to earlier, he actually has a story about Harley Race, and it's a very good story. So, you know what? That is your news. Alright, now it is time to talk nerdy to you. So normally I do this whole nerdcabulary word thing, but since we are with wrestling as this week's subject, and in our interview later, you're going to hear our friend say some terminology that you may not understand. the basic listener who's not, really into wrestling would probably not understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 terms. Now, I've already given you 2 in previous episodes, heel and face. Face being the good guy, heel being the bad guy. So here are 5 more terms in the wrestling world that one should know. There's angle. What an angle is an event or series of events that occurs between wrestlers. Basically, what this means is it's like occurrences that are part of a storyline involving 2 or more characters. One that comes to mind is they started a storyline between Shane McMahon and Kane by Kane attacking Shane's mom, Linda, back in the day. And that set up a match between Shane and Kane at Unforgiven, I believe it was. And that's your first one, angle. 2, gassed up. What gassed up is it's a term used to describe someone who may be using, let's just be honest, steroids. Maybe using steroids. This term has been used to describe those like Hulk Hogan, Scott Steiner, even the great Triple H. And of course, others greats as like The Rock have been, accused of gassing up. So now you have angle and you have gassed up. The next one is called go home. Now, no, you're not telling someone to leave the building. What go home means in the wrestling business is it's an instruction that wrestlers between each other, a wrestler gives another wrestler, or the ref. The ref also is very intricate to controlling a match. So either the ref or another wrestler will tell you to go home. That means to end the match. Whatever ending is planned, that is you ending the match. So, you've got angle, gassed up, and go home. Only 2 more. Heat. Heat is used to describe 2 things in the wrestling business, actually. The crowd reaction. For instance, a good guy may have good heat. A bad guy would have bad heat. And the other terminology that this is used to describe is heat backstage. Now, heat backstage is not choreographed heat. If someone has backstage heat, they legitimately in real life have an issue with one another. For instance, years ago, in real life, Edge and Matt Hardy's current girlfriend, Lita, had an affair. So that caused true heat between Matt Hardy and the wrestler Edge. Now, ever since then, they've buried it, the hatchet. Neither one of them are with Lita now. So that actually caused true heat backstage. Your last one is mark. And no, not a gentleman you may know from school. Mark is a term to use. It originally was described to basically describe a person who is truly bought in to what is going on. They don't know of the kayfabe. They are truly bought into what's going on is real. It's still real to them, darn it. And they are just so invested in what's going on and truly believe that side of the business aspect. It's also been used to talk about a fan, like someone who's really into a certain fan base. For instance, big Steve Austin fan would be called a Steve Austin Mark. If you're a fan of this podcast, you'd be called a 30 and nerdy Mark. So those are your 5 WWE, WWF, wrestling, whatever organization you may align to. Those are your terminology. Angle, gassed up, go home, heat, and mark. So that is your nerdcabulary words for this episode. And you will hear them definitely, some of them later on when we have our sit down with our special guest. So let's continue and break it down on wrestling. So let's talk about a little bit of the timeline. The history of professional wrestling as like a performing art, it started actually in the early 20th century for like a fun-fair variety of strongmen and wrestling performances, which often involved, of course, fixing the match. In the 19th century, that was huge. Professional wrestling as a popular form of entertainment became really popular in the 19th century out in Australia, North America, Latin America, Europe, Japan, all over those countries. It was kind of a combination of two styles, the freestyle and the Greco-Roman wrestling. Greco-Roman was based on like British bare-knuckling and continental tradition respective wrestling. But it also became, it was obviously popular also in the colleges and things like that, like the NCAA. For instance, you'll see a ton of wrestlers in the WWE or professional wrestling as an entertainment business have that college wrestling as a background. So really wrestling has been around. It's even an Olympic sport now. So the separation of what you would call worked or purely performing choreographed wrestling. Yes, some people use the F word, which fake. It really started gaining a lot of steam in the 1920s. Its popularity declined, obviously, during World War II, but it was revived in the late 40s and 50s. Some would say the first golden age of professional wrestling was in the United States during the Gorgeous George era. And in Mexico and Japan, the 1940s and 1950s is when it kind of also caught on with, like, in Mexico, Santo was their big performer, and I'm butchering this, Rikudo-san was the Japan's big face of the industry. There was actually kind of a marked decline in public interest in the 70s and early 80s, but with the addition of cable television in the mid-80s, there followed a second age, or the second golden age, of what the U.S. experienced a professional wrestling boom. Those were when you had the characters of like Andre the Giant and Randy Savage and Ric Flair, and most notably Hulk Hogan. The one who like told you to say your prayers and eat your vitamins, brother. And brother. That's the only way he talked, and he ripped his shirt and he had pythons this big, brother. And he was like the epitome of professional wrestling when I was a kid. It was Hulkamania running wild all over you. What you gonna do, brother? And then you had, Ric Flair was like the ultimate bad guy, wooing all over the place. The limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun, wheeling dealing, kiss stealing, woo! I mean, this was what people like me as a kid and even older than me were raised on in the professional wrestling world. And then that's when you started to get these ridiculous storylines. Television also helped many wrestlers break into mainstream media, becoming influential celebrities and icons. For instance, like now, you've seen Hulk Hogan in movies, Stone Cold, The Rock, John Cena, Triple H. They're actors now. They've kind of moved their way into mainstream media, and none of that would have been possible without professional wrestling in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. None of that. You would not have Dwayne Johnson without the character The Rock in the squared circle. Wrestling's popularity boomed when independent enthusiasts unified and their media outlets grew in number and became an international phenomenon in the 80s. You had the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, which now is the WWE. That's a long story because there was a lawsuit with the World Wildlife Foundation and the World Wrestling Foundation. Well, the animals, they won, so it's now the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment. Throughout the 90s, you had, I would say, the greatest era of wrestling, the Attitude Era. You had the wars between WWE and WCW. Now, ECW was on the side here thinking Extreme Championship Wrestling. They thought they were part of that war. That was a joke. The Monday Night Wars were like the epitome of wrestling when I was a kid. You had WWE and WCW airing on the same nights at the same time and trying to one-up one another. And some of these were my most early memories. I mean, WCW, I remember when the NWO formed in the mid-90s. And it was the first time that Hulk Hogan had ever been a bad guy. The greatest hero. Picture, if you're not a wrestling nerd, but you're a comic book nerd, picture the time that they released the comic book series of when Captain America went Hydra. Picture that. Picture Superman turning into a villain. Picture your greatest hero. The one you always looked up to. The one that anytime he was around you felt safe. Picture your greatest hero becoming the villain. That sent shockwaves through the wrestling universe for us as kids. And even adults. I mean, people go back and check this out. Look up YouTube and search Hulk Hogan turns heel or turns bad or the NWO formed. People were so bought into him as a hero and bought into what was going on that they were throwing chairs and beer cans and food and anything they could into the ring because they truly were so bought in that they were betrayed by the Hulkster. I mean, truly betrayed. And of course, some of my earliest memories is HBK winning against Bret Hart in the mid-90s. And the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is my all-time favorite. And he's one that I have not gotten to meet yet. And that sucks, but he's my all-time favorite. And someone asked me, knowing that we're going into this episode, they said, rank your top 5. And easily you could have 5 and 6 alternating with 2 others. But as of right now, I would say my top 5 is HBK, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Edge, and The Rock. Those are my top 5. Definitely. I mean, again, ask me tomorrow, and that 4 or 5 could switch with who's in my 6 and 7. So it just depends. It depends on the day, truthfully. So what we're gonna do now is I got to sit down with a family friend, and I'm gonna play that later. But some of the names that I've mentioned, you'll hear, and it's very exciting stuff. So let's go ahead and get SummerSlam out of the way. You know what? Let's. I want to save the interview for later, because I kind of want to. Let's just go ahead and get SummerSlam out of the way. Let's see. If you watched SummerSlam, you already know all this stuff. But they got these big pre-show shows now that most pay-per-views now are like they say they start at 8. But truthfully, on the network, it starts at 7, and there's now 3 to 4 pre-show matches before the show, which is already 3 hours long. It's like this past year's WrestleMania, I think Josh and I watched it. We couldn't even finish it. We were too tired because it was like a 6-hour event, and it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. So in the pre-show, we opened with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. They retained their women's tag team titles against the Iconics. I'm going to be honest. Last year, I was heavily pushing as a fan for them to finally introduce women's tag team titles because there were some talents that I were just fantastic together. And for instance, Sasha and Bayley, them becoming the first tag team women's champions, it was phenomenal. And then WWE just crapped on them. And I'm telling you, like, even as a wrestling fan, you will hear me and Josh, and especially if Logan ever chimes in, dog what WWE does a lot. And it's just because a lot of it's because Vince has his way, and it does not matter who a producer is, who a talent scout is. It does not matter, because at the end of the day, it's Vince McMahon's company, and he is going to do what he wants to do. That tangent aside, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross retained. Buddy Murphy defeated Apollo Crews via DQ because Luke Gallows, or not Luke Gallows, one of the Wyatt family guys that have been lagging around with Daniel Bryan, the Forgotten Wyatt, whatever. He kind of came in and beat the crap out of Buddy Murphy because there's this whole storyline with Roman Reigns going, and Buddy Murphy blamed Rowan, that's his name. Rowan, and he just beat him up, so DQ. DQs are very popular in WWE as well. It's so infuriating. Drew Gulak, he retained the Cruiserweight Champion against Oni, and that's not a shock. A few years ago, me and Logan and Josh, we were clamoring for a Cruiserweight division to come back, and then it came back as a tournament, and then they started their own show, and it has been bad, to be honest, and nothing exciting about it, and it's a bright purple belt, and it's ugly. So we go to the main show, finally. Kevin Owens defeated Shane McMahon. They've been it's almost like this reinvention, modernization of the Stone Cold Vince McMahon storyline, except now it's his son Shane, and he's the best in the world, and he's running SmackDown, and now KO, who was a heel a month ago, and now he's a face, all of a sudden going against the boss, and he uses the stunner now, so it's just very recycled, which WWE loves to do. AJ Styles defeated Ricochet. No shock there. I really enjoy Ricochet. AJ, I just feel bad for him because he's such a great talent, and we finally acquired him a few years ago, and sometimes I don't think they know what they can do with him. So, The Fiend, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt, they've been doing this Mr. Rogers thing with Bray Wyatt, and he talks about The Fiend and this creature that is not Bray Wyatt, but we all know it is Bray Wyatt with a very creepy looking mask. He defeated Finn Balor, which it was a good match for SummerSlam between them two. I mean, we've done it before. We've seen Bray and we've seen Finn. We've even seen Bray Wyatt and the Demon Finn. So now I'm guessing they're building up for The Fiend versus the Demon King. Charlotte Flair defeated Trish Stratus. No shock there, but I really did not care about the match. Then, another match I really didn't care about. One of my favorites today is Dolph Ziggler, but he just jobbed out to Goldberg, who, honestly, he's old, and he was huge in WCW when I was younger. I don't know why he's back. Goldberg just squashed him, and that is that. But Dolph Ziggler can make anybody look good. Dolph Ziggler could wrestle a cat with one leg, and he would make the cat look good. Up next, we had Bayley defeated Ember Moon for to retain her SmackDown Women's title. No shock there either. Aside from Charlotte Flair, I don't know anyone who really could take the title from Bayley. Then we moved on to one I was very interested in. Now, this cat, Kofi Kingston, he has been grinding since 2007. I remember when he first debuted in ECW, and I thought he was fantastic. I've always been a Kofi Kingston fan. Logan used to give me crap about him back in ECW days, WWE's version of ECW days, back in 2007 when he debuted, and he was just a silly, stupid, mid-card Jamaican character. Flash forward to now, and he's WWE champion. He put in his time. He put in the effort. He waited. He was patient, and he did his job. He is proof that if you stay out of trouble, you keep grinding, and you keep doing what you do best, and you don't cause drama, you're not hurt all the time, your time will come. Kofi retained his title against Randy Orton via double countout. Now, obviously, this means that they will keep going with the storyline of Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston. But again, this was SummerSlam, one of your biggest pay-per-views, and you do a double freaking countout. It's ridiculous. That's the second... Actually, yes, that's the second stupid finish to the match so far that night. We had a DQ in the pre-show, and now we have a double count-out. No clear winner, but Kofi keeps the title. That completely delegitimate, or takes away the legitimacy of Kofi as a champ, that he had to win because they both couldn't get up. It was a good match. It was. But that's just ridiculous for a title match to end like that. So up next, Becky Lynch defeated Natalya. No shock there, because number one, Natalya is a terrible character. She's a Neidhart. She's the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. He's a legend. She's a niece of Bret the Hitman Hart. Again, legend. Killer legend blood status. Terrible character. It's just, and even if she's good or if she's bad, I don't care. She's just a bad character. She can't act her way out of a paper bag. But she's a good wrestler, I guess. But Becky, however, is fantastic. She really is the man. And I love that they are finally getting that. She is also proof of, by God, I am going to show you why you need me and why you need to push me. You can look over me all you want, but I'm going to jump as high as it takes for your eyes to meet mine, and I'm going to show you why I'm here. Becky Lynch has completely taken the world by storm and shown everyone what hard work is and what honing your craft can do. Big fan of Becky Lynch. And finally, the big finale of the night, we had Seth Rollins defeated Brock Lesnar. Now, Seth Rollins lost the Universal title, which again is a stupid red title that they added when the brand split, and it just means nothing now. It's dumb. So Seth lost this title like a month ago. And he had beaten Brock Lesnar for it at Mania, at WrestleMania. And then all of a sudden the Beast won the briefcase, Brock won the briefcase, and then cashed it in, and he beat Seth. But then for the past month he's been unbeatable, even though Seth already beat him. And then he beats Brock, and Brock's beaten and gone. And to be honest, if you watched in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know who Brock Lesnar is. If you watch today, you know who Brock Lesnar is. If you watch UFC, you know who Brock Lesnar is. Brock Lesnar could have lost last night, walked away, and never showed back up again. And I'd be completely happy with that. I think he is catered to. We all know that Vince McMahon wants him as like a sideshow attraction because he's this big freak of a beast. He's a jerk, first of all. And in real life, he's a jerk. He's only there for the money. He cares nothing about us, our feelings, our opinion as fans. Cares nothing about Vince. Cares nothing about the company. He's only there to make money. And he's proved that. He's said that 1,000 times. And he could never come back again, and I would be happy as a lark. And I know that my co-host, Josh, feels the same way. Most of the world now feels the same way. So, that's how it ended. Seth got the title back. If you watched Monday this past week, they are setting up a Seth versus AJ, which we've seen. Yeah. That was SummerSlam. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, I guess is what I'd give it. Some of the matches I felt were snooze fests and useless. But hopefully when he feels better on our follow-up Friday, we will get Josh's opinion. So, that's SummerSlam from this past Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a break, and when we get back, we will have our sit-down with a very good family friend of mine. His name is Tim Horner. In the business, he was White Lightning, and he has traveled all over the world and done a lot with multiple companies, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. So We'll see you nerds in a minute. What's up, guys? I am sitting down here with a family friend of ours and kind of a legend here in the Morristown area. This is White Lightning Tim Horner. Tim, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited we got to do this. We're sitting in your office, which is really cool. Kind of a in your own element type of thing.
I'm in the closet, so to speak. You know?
Hey, it's an office though. So basically, what I want to do is just kind of pick your brain a little bit, ask you some questions. Because I grew up watching you. I even got to see you live at the Tally Ward a couple of times. So. And I even had a White Lightning foam finger.
Oh, wow.
For a little while. I can't remember where it went, but if I had it, it'd be on my hand right now.
Yeah, those were back then. We were in, I guess, part of the Smoky Mountain and just the regional things, and so the wrestlers got to sell their own merchandise. So.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I had those, and I had lightning bolts, foam rubber lightning bolts, and so those were pretty popular back then. So.
Oh yeah. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you a story about, and you talked to Dad a little bit about this, but how much of a small world we live in. Dad and Mom live in Georgia now, and their landlord, Mark White, apparently in the old days used to put the rings up.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to put the rings up in a match you were involved in, and he said you came back to, I guess, what's Gorilla, and you said that was the worst chokehold you had ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
Who were you fighting? I think he said it was a Russian.
It was probably Ivan Koloff.
Ivan Koloff?
Yeah, Uncle Ivan we called him.
Yeah.
But Ivan, if you got excited a little bit, you know, he kept you under control. So it was, but he was a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah.
Uncle Ivan.
So when did you get your start?
I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but when I was a junior in high school, I was at the Tally Ward, and Robert Fuller and the Mongolian Stomper were wrestling.
Yeah.
And we'd had a Little League game, and we always trying to look into the windows, and one of the police officers got me in. And so we were just sitting there watching the matches, and then all of a sudden I was trying to get in the ring, and he had me by the belt buckle. It was Jack Fleeman, and he got all over me and pulled me back there, and the promoter came out, and his name was Louis Tillette. He was French-Canadian, and he cussed me in French and American, and I was crying. I was scared, you know, and because he said, get him out, and Jack said, I got him, it's okay. And then after the matches was over, he came out and he apologized for cursing, and I said, it's okay, just don't call my parents, and won't let me come back, you know. And it was a thing like that. And he said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm in school. I'm a junior in high school. He said, what do you do in high school? I said, what do you mean? He said, you play sports? I said, yeah, I play football and wrestle and run track. And he said, you got a lot of spunk for a little feller, because I was about $160 maybe. And he gave me a card. He said, what's your plans? And I said, well, I hope to play football, which I did. I hope to, but didn't. And so he gave me a card. He said, if you get up to 200 pounds when you graduate and don't know what you want to do, call me, and I'll give you a tryout. And I carried that card for 2 years in my wallet. And when I graduated, I got a job, went to Waller State for a while, and then I decided to chase that dream. And I called him, I got a tryout, and that's how I got into wrestling.
Wow. And what all organizations were you involved with throughout your career?
Well, I started here, it was the old Southeastern,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mid-Atlantic, and then Blackjack Mulligan and Ric Flair came in and opened up Knoxville again in 1981. And that was where I really, Jack had asked me if I ever thought about doing it full time. I said, that's all I've ever wanted. So he gave me my first full-time job doing it, and I went 12 years and only missed holidays without working. Back then it was the old territory days.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't cable, so you could go in one place and nobody knew you, and you go in another one. And
be a star.
You'd be a star. Good guy in one place, bad guy in another, and nobody knew about it, you know. So, but I went from there to Mid-Atlantic. Then I went to Bill Watts down in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Stayed. They told me I'd be there probably 6 months. That Bill only let young guys, you know, stay there about 6 months, and I stayed 13 months, and I left on my own because he liked me and he kept me around, and I learned a lot there. Then I went to Continental. Then I went back to Charlotte. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went to Mid-Atlantic, and then they were going to try to give me a little break there, and then politics got in the way, and so Jake Roberts at the time was booking with Ole in Georgia.
Really?
And so Jake said, "I got a spot for you," which in that wrestling business means you're figured in somewhere in a angle, so to speak. So I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So first TV there, I beat Hawk on TV, Road Warriors, in a singles match, and so I went. That was on Saturday morning, and we went back to Charlotte, Greensboro that night. We flew back to Charlotte and got on Greensboro because I was already booked on a show that night. And Ric Flair came up and he told Jimmy Crockett at the time, who was the owner of the promotion, he said, "You know the kid that you didn't want to give an opportunity here?" And he said, "Yeah." "Well, what about him?" And he said, "He just beat Hawk on TV today." And he went, "What?" Because Warriors were the hottest thing going at the time, you know. And so then he walks over and he says, "So you're leaving me, huh, kid?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? You didn't have nothing for me, you know, other than me hang around and be cannon fodder for somebody, you know." So I stayed there for a while. Then I went back to Louisiana, then back to Pensacola in the Continental, and then I went from there in 1980. I had a couple tours to Japan in between them.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went WWF in '89, did a 9-day European tour, which was good, and then I went back to WCW at the time, then came home, and the girls were starting to play sports, and I didn't want to miss that. I've seen too many guys sit in the dressing room and talk about their kid hitting a home run or something and not being there, you know, and so my girls were athletic, and then so I came home. But then that's when Smokey started in the early '90s, and so did that, and then pretty much just I did a lot of independent stuff.
Where you control your schedule.
Yeah, I did what I wanted to do and who I wanted to do it with.
Yeah,
you know, because there comes a point where, you know, I don't mind doing it, but I don't want to get hurt doing it, you know, so. But, and it was good, and now I'm doing the Fanboys and all the good stuff. So
like,
it's been a trip.
I mean, what was the differences in, like, say the big named ones out of those that people will remember today as WCW and WWF? What was it like? Who were the big dogs when you were in the WWF? Was it Hulk?
Hulk was there, yeah.
Who was?
Hulk was there, and Honky Tonk Man, Greg Valentine. It was the Jake the Snake. It was the animal thing. You know, everybody had a bird or a snake or or something, and I was just actually the Demolition, which Axe and Smash, good friends of mine, wanted a young babyface team to come up there, and so Brad and I were going to go, and then Brad decided he didn't want to go up there. He didn't want to travel as much, so I went by myself, not having a spot. So they didn't really know what to do, but instead of us being the tag team, the Rockers got the spot, which was Shawn Michaels,
Shawn and Marty
Jannetty. And so, you know, you look back and you say, gosh, that could have been would they be a Shawn Michaels now
if Brad had went with you.
Brad, yeah.
Wow.
You don't know. I mean, of course, everything happens for a reason.
You can sit all day and wonder.
But that was, so and I was just in the middle of the card. Brad and I talked about it many times. When you learn your trade and you're what we thought we were good at it.
Yeah.
We were more utility players. When you can work on the opening match or the main event anywhere on the card.
Yeah.
And you can make guys look better than they really are. We were more valuable to a promoter and a booker.
Yeah.
Doing that than it was, but we thought we should have got more opportunities.
Yeah.
We knew there was a ton of guys out there getting opportunities that couldn't wear boots, but
yeah. So like today, someone that sticks out to my mind doing that is Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
He's someone who can make the biggest, slowest guy look fantastic because of how he plays.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You said you were in WCW, what became WCW? And so, like, you had WWF on one side, who were the big wigs in your...
In WCW?
Yeah, in WCW.
Sting was there.
Sting was there?
Sting was there.
The Surfer Sting?
Yeah,
blonde hair and...
Yeah, we met them in Dallas. When Brad and I went to Dallas in '87, actually Jim Crockett brought out the UWF.
Yeah.
And so we went out there, and they were the tag champs. And we went out there, the first TV, went 23 minutes on TV with them and beat them for the titles. And, that was just... And they were gassed up, him and Steiner. Steiner's like hitting a wall. And I told Brad, I said, we may have to fight these guys, because they were just, gassed up, and but it was good. It was all good, and we got to be, good friends, and all that. But yeah, Sting was the franchise there when I was there.
No, he was franchised for years in WCW.
Yeah.
I got to meet him at Freedom Hall a few years ago. After he made the jump to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually met him when I was a kid here at Twilight. He came as Red-Faced Sting.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, good guy.
He is. I hate to ask you this big of a question, but out of your years, who do you look back and say, that was my favorite person to be in the ring with?
Arn Anderson.
Arn? Just like the ring awareness and...
He was so good, and if you've read his book, he gives me credit for a lot. He calls me his first mentor. When I was in Louisiana, Tony Anthony, the Dirty White Boy, we were there, and then while he was there, we had an apartment together. And when Lynn Denton came in as the grappler, then they put them together, and they were the grapplers.
Yeah. So
they left and went to Houston, went to Texas to work, and so I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a roommate, so he came through. It was Marty Lundy then.
Okay.
Who he wrestled with in his early years, and they offered him a job, and they said, "Gosh, you look like Ole," So that's when we changed his name to Arn Anderson, and I told him, I said, "Hey, you can move in with me. It helped me out. We weren't home anyway down there. We drove 3,000 miles a week. It was just crazy. You didn't have time to spend it. Even though you didn't make money, you saved money because you didn't have time to spend it. Unless you was on the road. But there's an art to this business which is totally lost anymore. Telling the story
in the ring.
Yeah. We never saw the guys because there was a kayfabe back then.
Yeah.
And you never saw the guys.
It's dead.
There's many guys that I've got in the ring and locked up and say, "Hey, how are you, sir?" Especially the older guys, and I'd always ask the older guys to watch my match because I knew the business at that point. Where like if Wrestling 2 came in or Flair, because they traveled everywhere, So they might get over there and somebody say, hey, I'm looking for a young kid. Hey, I saw him down here, you know.
Yeah.
And so I parlayed that into working 12 years straight.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to go from territory to territory and not have a end somewhere. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arn would be my pick from, and Harley just passed.
Yeah.
And I wrestled Harley in 1981 in Brantford, Ontario.
Really?
On TV. And I never will forget it. He was a world champion then. And so I always tell people, yeah, I wrestled Harley when he was a world champion. But it was a TV match, and it was just a fodder match. But anyway, we got out there and he asked me, he said, how long you been working, kid? And I said, about 2.5 years, sir. And he said, all right. He said, just calm down, we'll be okay. So we go out there and heck, he started letting me do stuff, and I was doing this to him. And I thought, golly, because I thought it was just going to be a squash, Yeah. He was a world champion, and I wasn't nobody. And so it was a pretty good match, Yeah. And we came back, and of course I went over and I said, hey, thank you, sir. You didn't have to do that. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, I could have went out there and just beat you up. And he said, but then what have I done? I hadn't beaten anybody up. He said, once I felt comfortable with you, then I made the people think that you did have a chance to beat me. I mean, he went to slam me once, and he said he called small package, and I slid in, and 1, 2, oh, that kid almost,
Yeah.
It was like that. So he gave me some credibility, and he said, now I beat somebody. And that was a lesson I learned early on with Harley. But yeah, it was pretty good.
Cool. Well, there's a story that I think I heard on another podcast or a YouTube video or something where you got to wrestle Macho Man one time.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually sang your praises.
Yeah.
Which is, while he's, the Macho Man.
Yeah, it was in Boston Gardens. It was a cable match. And we had about 14 minutes, which is, and he was the second man behind Hulk up there at the time. And so he said, hey, hey, it's me and you, hey, talking, and brother, you. So anyway, he said, they want me to catch you with the elbow, off the top rope. So you set it up, and we'll do whatever you want. So I set the whole match up, and he said, he said, it's so easy for me, and I said, because I remember, I always learned early on, if you were going to get beat, hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Just a lot of guys don't understand that, but you hurt yourself, and I said, what do you mean? So anyway, so he had Sherry with him at the time, Scary Sherry.
Yeah. So
I said, you want to use her in the finish? And he said, yeah, let's do something like that. So I set it up where everything he did, I countered, and I was up on top, and finally I just slipped on a banana peel, and he's whacking me, and then I made a big comeback, and we're doing all this, and I had him sidestep me and shoot me outside. Well, when he shot me outside, I got up, and of course he's drawing the ref, and so ref goes with him. Well, Sherry comes up behind me and just shoves me head first into the pole, and I staggered out, and she threw me in, and he dropped the elbow on me.
Nice.
And they went crazy over it,
Yeah.
And I remember him going to the back, and they said, hey, that was cool, that was a nice finish. He said, that's the kid, not me.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's cool. And that's the Sherry that became Sean's manager for a while.
Sherry Martell.
Yeah.
Good girl. Golly, she was one of the boys.
So what's your favorite memory that sticks out? Whether it's in the car with another wrestler, in Gorilla, just anything.
A favorite memory? I don't know that it's a good. It's a memory that sticks in my mind a lot of times. I don't know if it was my favorite, but I know you heard about this when Paul Orndorff and Vader got into it at TV.
I heard about it on a DVD.
Oh my gosh! I was sitting there with in the locker room with Nick Patrick, he's a referee, and Paul was an agent at WCW, and so when you're an agent, like I was when I was in WWE, you have a list, you have a job to do. Well, Paul's job was to make sure everybody got to do their interviews. You're up next. So he came in, he tells Vader, he said, Vader, you're up next. And so Paul goes, and they're on Paul's butt because they're on the time schedule. Paul, Paul says, comes back, he said, hey, I told you when I get ready, I'll be in there. And Paul says, hey, da-da-da-da-da. So Vader's walking down the hall, and Paul's behind him, and he said, we got to get this done. And Vader turned, and, Paul had enough. And so nobody knew Paul was left-handed. I did. Brad and I did. We call him Paw all the time. And Vader went, Paul went like this to punch and caught him with an uppercut, and Vader fell like a tree. I mean, just smack. And Paul started kicking him in the face. If he had shoes on, he'd kill him probably, but had flip-flops on, and his face swelled up like a pumpkin. He was bleeding everywhere, and I was back and forth. And I grabbed Paul, and Paul turned around and said, "Get your effing hands off me." I said, "Yes, sir."
Yes, sir.
And then later on, he said, "Don't ever grab me in a fight." And I said,
"Because you're next."
I said, "Lesson learned," But yeah, that was a big thing. I heard guys talk about it, and wrestlers embellishment sometimes.
Yeah.
Tell different stories, but that was basically what happened, and it's when I hear people talk about it, I go, I was there, and I saw Paul last year in Rome. We was doing a show there, and Paul was there, and he's had some health issues, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Man," I said, "I ain't seen you in a while," and I said, "I remember one of the last times I saw you, I was trying to pull you off of Vader, and he started laughing. I said, "Brother, that was a lesson learned for me," And but yeah, that's good times.
You talked about being an agent, so like after the ring,
mm-hmm.
you kind of shifted into more of a backstage role.
Yeah.
What all were you affiliated with backstage?
Well, we sat in on the production.
Mm-hmm.
The shows of Raw, SmackDown, and at that time we were doing ECW. Ted DiBiase and I were agents mostly on the ECW, and so we would sit in on what they wanted on TV, and then we'd sit down, and each agent there was there's Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, Mike Rotundo, myself, Michael Hayes. I mean, there's just a lot of older guys, there. So on a television like a Raw, each agent has a match.
Yeah.
And so, I'd get my match, and then I'd sit down with the guys and tell them what we wanted and what we wanted them to do, and then you go in a gorilla position, and here sits Vince, and at that time it was Jerry Briscoe. He was doing the time, and then you sat here. And so you had the headsets, and you had your mic went straight to the TV truck and the referee, and of course Vince could hear you, and everybody could hear what was going on. So, you'd have to go, okay, he'd say, 30 seconds. So I'd say, hey, 30 seconds, we're going to commercial break. So referee, he's, 30 seconds, and then they kill it and they go to break, and they can back up in 30. Live. And so he's, hey, live, so the guys know where.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting job,
So between you and the ref, you're controlling
everything.
The flow of the match,
Yeah.
where the camera's pointing, where,
No, we don't call camera shots.
You don't call camera shots?
They do that in the truck.
Okay.
We just call the action,
Yeah.
So, and it was challenging sometimes because, I know one match we had, it was a tag match, but they weren't like a tag team. So you got 4 entrances going in, so that's 4 minutes.
It was one of those Teddy Long specials.
And then then the other team's coming out, and then and all of a sudden you had 8 minutes of match, and now you got to create a tag match situation where they look good. They get you up. They go, in 2 minutes. And it's just
because the entrances are already so long.
It's, and some of them, that's the best part of their match was the entrances. So, but anyway, it was challenging, to do some stuff.
Did you get
I really enjoyed it though.
Go on scouting with any people?
Yeah.
Like, are there anybody in the business today that you found, that you helped find?
Kofi Kingston.
Kofi. He's a champion now.
Kofi.
One of my favorites.
Kofi. Kofi was at Arn Anderson. Well, I don't think Arn went. Yeah, maybe Arn. It was me, Arn, and Dean, I think. We were in Boston, and what's the guy's name? The old timer that had the wrestling school up there. I can't think of his name. But anyway, they had 6 or 7 guys, and we were 10, so we went over and watched them, and we gave them, say, okay, you got you're wrestling Ric Flair and for the world title, and you got a guy in a minute interview. Go, just put him on the spot, and he was doing the
Jamaican accent.
Hey man, how about you, Ric Flair? Woo, maybe we burn one of them. I mean, it was good. It was, you couldn't put it on TV, but
it was entertaining.
It was entertaining. Yeah. It was good, and he's very athletic and
yeah, he is. I mean, every year the Royal Rumble he shows out.
John Laurinaitis said, "Who'd you see?" And he said, "Timmy, who'd you see?" And I said, "Kofi." I said, "I think he's got something." I said, "I wish he was a little bigger, but so they hired him."
And he went to ECW first.
Yeah,
showed up in ECW first. I've been following him since the beginning. I've loved Kofi Kingston, and I'm finally happy they gave him.
I saw him in Knoxville a couple years ago, I guess it was, and I walked up and he said, "Oh, my brother." I said, "Hey, it was you, it wasn't me. I just put a word in." So
that's awesome. So you do any part-time stuff with them anymore? Because I remember when I was a freshman in college, there was a Raw coming to Knoxville, and I was like, and me and my friends were really wanting to go, and Dad was just like, "Oh, send Tim a text." I sent you a text, and you sent Steamboat a text, and scored us some tickets, which was awesome. So I know you still talk to them occasionally, people, but do you do anything with them, or is it all full-time Morristown?
Yeah, I don't, I stay in touch with those. Of course, Arn's not there now.
Yeah.
Dean's left, and
it's a shame.
It's their loss. But Arn's contract runs out this month, so.
And there's a new.
I look at AEW.
Yeah.
So Dean's already there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and those of us that are like me and Josh and Logan, we are really big fans of the story being told in the ring. And a lot of the flashy stuff that they are now into because the kids love it, we jest about it a lot. We're thinking that hopefully AEW brings this old school vibe back. This not behind the scenes soap opera, terrible camera angles.
The problem is there's no emotion in it anymore.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look at an Arn Anderson interview with a Horseman, oh my gosh. I mean, it was all, because we didn't, you go up at WWE now and you get a portfolio like this, and it's got
lines to hit.
Of lines that you got to hit, and
good Lord. Like, I'm a theater kid, and that would bug me.
But when we were there, I mean, when we were at Crockett's, I remember one time Crockett or Dusty, I guess it was, So we were standing there, Brad and I were standing there waiting, and I think we were working with the Midnight Express in the Superdome in Louisiana, and they said, actually we were the champions then, and they said, when they called us out, they said, Lightning Express, Midnight Express, Cajun Dome, or whatever it was, 45 seconds, and that's all they told you. So we did it all on our own.
It was more organic that way.
Ad-lib.
Yeah. See, I'm a fan of ad-lib and improv. I love that.
But your emotion was in it instead of saying, okay, now we're in Louisiana, and and we look at each other and play off each other. Hey, brother, I can't wait till we get back to Cajun Dome. That pretty lady's down there, just roll with it, you know, and it was just emotion was there. And now you can see them when they're doing their interviews. It's almost like they're reading it off.
Yeah.
You know, and probably are on cue cards.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. You know, but there's just no, the emotion is not there,
Mm-hmm.
and the matches are not there. You know.
Yeah. You can see that they have points they have to hit. There's very little room for organic feel in the ring.
Yeah.
It's just like, you got to hit this,
and
you
I
got to
told
hit
them,
that.
those guys would sit up there. I said, you couldn't work the business 15 years ago. And I said, what do you mean? I said, we never saw the guy. He was on one end of the building, we were on the other. I said, y'all were sitting here, you're going over
goofing off before. And
well, you're going over you've been here 4 hours going over a 4-minute match.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, if y'all can't get it in 4 hours, they ain't gonna get it in 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they said, well, didn't you ever go over spots? I said, I very seldom knew what I was going to do except to finish.
Yeah.
All they came to you at the end and said, hey, you know, Tyler's going over with a sunset flip off the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I gave you.
And
we
had
to get there.
Here's your time.
And I
that's your
tell
finish.
guys, I said, here, it's like a puzzle. I said, learn your pieces, then learn how to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
It's the same story every night. You make the guy look good, you cut him off, he gets a comeback, you go into the finish.
Yeah.
It's the same story, you just tell it different every night.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Guys make it hard, but it's not that hard.
Yeah. So now, you know, you're full-time here in Morristown. You're a council member, correct? Commissioner. You're a commissioner. And you've got your bond company as well. So what's the day-to-day for Tim Horner?
Get up, you know, gym maybe every other day maybe. You know, court usually 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you just sit around waiting on people to be stupid.
Yeah.
Go to jail and then, you know, get those out. And then, you know, we're in the process of building a jail here in the county, so that's working on that. Plus the school's always got issues with the county. So, you know, it's just an opportunity that I saw that was a chance for me to give back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love it here. People say, why'd you come back here? Because I said, you know, I've lived in Dallas. I lived in Charlotte 3 times, Atlanta twice, Pensacola twice, Baton Rouge twice, you know. And I said, why'd you come back here? I said, you got to get away from it to appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my daughter's in Charlotte now, and she already sees, you know, Dad, I got to pay taxes on my car every year. And I said, so it's not so bad here once you get away, you know. And the older you get, the more, you know, things just become stuff.
Yeah. Nolan's in New York now, and he's learning a lot of, it's a world of difference.
Absolutely.
But as you said, you know, you've lived here, you've lived there. I always think of, you know, Dusty used to say, you know, I've dined in the alley with pork and beans, and I've dined with kings and queens. Kings and queens. But before we end, my cohort is not here. He's under the weather. Mm-hmm. So didn't want to get you sick. You might kick his butt. So at the opening in service, I think it was last week or something, you were 2 rows ahead of Josh. And he said it was so tempting not to lean forward and go, hey, lock up.
He should have.
I told him, I said, you just should have said, want to lock up?
Oh,
I was like, he'd have given you a show. you know? But any chance get to talk to you a little bit is always great.
Oh.
And, you know, you went through the business, you know how big memorabilia is. And
I'm learning.
Branding, you know.
Branding, yeah.
So I brought a gift for you from us. This is a 30 and Nerdy Podcast shirt.
Wow.
That hopefully you will wear around. And a koozie for 30 and Nerdy Podcast. And just hope that maybe we'll get to sit down again one day and talk a little more in detail. Some stories and stuff.
Anytime. I mean, I have a lot of stories, and people have asked me, said, why don't you write a book? And I thought, you know, if I really thought I had an outlet for it, you know, one of those guys who do the bestsellers, or, you know,
Foley.
Vince's push. Well, you know, that WWE pushes them, you know. And, if you get somebody to, if you get one out there, but it's just crazy. I've had some friends just who I've told some Andre the Giant stories and different things. He said, "Hey, why don't you just come over to my barn and let me invite some friends over, and you just sit and tell stories, And I said, "Hey, yeah, that'd be cool." It was good, But yeah, I mean, because it's a unique business.
Yeah.
It's a brotherhood. It's one of those deals where I may not have seen a guy in 15 years, and I'm gonna see him in August. Well, this Saturday, actually, I'm going to Charlotte for the Mid-Atlantic reunion. This Saturday. And so I'll be over there, and but it's like after you sat there with him 10 minutes, you're right back where you were 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but I've got some, anytime I've got some other stuff. I was a few different characters other than myself there, time or two, but
Well, cool.
Everybody tried to, see how deep the water was at different points in their career.
Push the gimmicks and different stuff like that.
So, but anyway, I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you very much, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Sure.
Meanwhile, back at 30 and Nerdy. All right, and we are back. That was an amazing sit-down. I really hope to get to do it again soon. Thank you again to White Lightning Tim Horner for talking with us for a little bit about the business. That was fantastic. So we got a little bit of time here for a Q&A. Got a lot of questions here sent to us. Let's just jump right into it. John Hayes asks, who would play Bruiser Brody in a biopic? Luke Harper. The other Wyatt brother with the black hair and the black beard. Definitely. Logan asks, favorite event you've ever been to? Royal Rumble 2010. I got to see Edge return at the Royal Rumble after like an 8 or 9 month Achilles injury and healing, and it was actually our best friend Logan Roach was with us, and about fell out of his seat because he's a huge Edge head. Brad asks, favorite time in wrestling? Mine personally is the 90s. I'd have to agree. The War, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, DX, NWO, Stone Cold, The Rock. Everything that had to do with the 90s was just phenomenal. Definitely the 90s. Chris asks, who introduced you to wrestling? It would be a mixture between my older brother, Christopher, and my grandfather. See, my older brother, when he was younger, he had these fighting buddy pillows, and he had Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. And I had no idea who these cats were, and my grandfather showed me who they were. They were on TV. He turned the TV on and showed me who they were. Lee asks, favorite match or moment? Let me give you both. Match was definitely HBK Taker at Mania 25. Show-stopping match. Moment was my first live pay-per-view, which was WrestleMania 24. It was actually my first live event. I traveled with Logan Roach, my dad and my sister. We all went down to Orlando, spent some time at the beach. They drove around and enjoyed Orlando while me and Logan went to the event. It was Ric Flair's last match. Shawn Michaels retired him. I was sunburnt, but still enjoyed it. Chad asks, what are your thoughts on the state of things now? Well, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. I'm not a fan with how Vince McMahon pushes certain people and runs the product. I really hope that this new upcoming AEW either pushes WWE to do better or just gives us a better outlet to watch. I know that they are not going to reinstitute the Monday Night Wars. They're not going to be on Monday. But hopefully AEW and Cody Rhodes and the Young Guns and all them, Young Bucks, they give us a good product, I hope. Blake asks, dream scenario, if you were to debut in the business. It's funny. I was actually going to, if Josh were here, I was actually going to play that game with him. You read my mind. Well, I think it begs the question. Obviously my favorite wrestler is HBK. I think it'd be cool to enter the business as his son. I know they do the son storyline a lot, but I think it'd really be cool. Or after today, or after my sit down with White Lightning, maybe the new White Lightning, Tim Horner's son. Peyton asks, in a cage match, who wins? The Hulk, Wolverine, Batman, Superman, or Indiana Jones? Batman. And there's no... he's Batman. That's the only reason I need. Adam asks, thought on Bischoff and Heyman working under Vince so far? They can be the executive all they want to. It's still Vince's product. He'll micromanage the heck out of them. However, if they are behind, Kofi holding the title so long and pushing him, and if they are behind putting the title on Rollins, and if they're behind, some of the title decisions, then they're doing fantastic. I love it. But I still think that McMahon cannot go too long without micromanaging. Final question. Megan asks, what is your wrestling Mount Rushmore? Well, there's a difference between my top 5 favorites and the Mount Rushmore, which is, the 4 heads. I'd have to say Flair, Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, maybe that Austin spot you could switch out for Taker. That's a tough question. But yeah, that's my best. Flair, HBK, Austin, and Hogan. That's my Mount Rushmore. That's all the questions we had for this episode. Thank you so much for sending in the questions. I hope you enjoy the answers. If you disagree with anything I say, please let us know. Send us an email. All right, next week, hopefully Josh is back, and we are going to be talking a little bit about the world of theater, because we are both theater nerds. And send in questions for next week. If you have a funny story from the theater world, a rehearsal, a show, anything, please send them in, because I know a lot of my theater nerds listen to this, and my fellow kids here in Morristown, and our compatriots on the stage. I know you're listening. Send in your questions, your funny stories, your comments, your anything to do with theater for next week's episode. Send that to 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, patrons, everyone who listens. And you know what? I do have 5 words for my co-host who missed out on this episode. And I just have to say, Josh?
You just made the list!
You've been listening to the 30 and Nerdy Podcast with your hosts, Tyler McDaniel and Josh Davis. Brought to you by Encore Theatrical Company, Akita Express, Creative Theater, and Advertising Expressions. Find us, follow us, and like us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Visit our website, 30andnerdypodcast.com. Got something to tell us? Drop us an email, 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers to you, nerds!